republic for which it stands.
One nation, under God.
Indivisible.
With liberty and justice for all.
Guns, self-defense, concealed carry. This is the Patriot Defense Podcast. From the war room in Idaho's high desert, here's your host, Todd Echols.
And I am back once again into Sunday afternoon, and I am tucked away in the war room somewhere in the high desert of southern Idaho, and it's good to be here. I hope everyone is out and has had a great week, and wherever you're at, I hope you are enjoying some beautiful weather. I know it's been absolutely fantastic here where I am located this weekend. I think yesterday we were up in the 70s. Today, I don't think it's going to do it, but today it was even rumored that it was maybe going to hit 80 degrees. That's a great way to start off spring. So looking forward to the warm weather, looking forward to the classes. I was able to actually get out yesterday, and I had a class, a beginner's fundamentals class. I had about 5 people show up to that, and I had my helper Mark show up. You guys know him as the gunslinger. I had him show up, and he helped out with the class, and we had a great time, great class, lots of great learning taking place. Some brand new shooters. They didn't even have guns of their own, a couple of them, and they borrowed mine, and man, it was fantastic. I love brand new shooters, people that haven't really ever shot before, getting a firearm into their hands and showing them how to do stuff the right way the first time through. No bad habits. It's just the satisfaction I get seeing them enjoy themselves and learn how to do it correctly, and the big smile on their face when they hit the bullseye, or they shoot a couple magazines, and that nervousness wears off and kind of goes away, and they're actually enjoying it, and they're actually having a good time. It's the best part of my job, to be honest with you. You know, you got the high-speed guys, right? They come in and they want to do this, and that's fun too. But this is why I do this. This is so I can teach people to be able to defend themselves and do it safely and do it correctly, and I can show them that firearms aren't bad like the media makes them out to be. It's fantastic. That's all there is. It's one of the best things in my life that I can do. It's I enjoy it so much. Before I do a show, I always sit down, well, not always, and you guys could probably pick out those ones, but I try to sit down and come up with a list of stuff to talk about. And we got a few different things to talk about today. We got some, I normally don't talk about this too much, but we got some stuff coming down from the ATF talking about forced reset triggers and how they're going to classify certain forced reset triggers as actually firearms themselves. So we'll talk about that and how they're wanting to come in and take those from you and stomp all over your rights, and actually just they want to take possession of your possessions, and they want to illegally take possession of those things, saying you can't have those. We'll talk about that. I was able to, when the gunslinger was here, he actually bought a Canic Rival the other day, and he brought it by, and he had put a red dot on it for the first time, and I was able to sit down and help him get that dialed in and get a chance to run some rounds through that. So I'll give you my comments on that gun. I've got the IWI. Oh, no, I don't have it, but Mark also brought the Iwi Masada, and he brought that by, and I'll tell you about kind of how I feel about that gun. And we're going to speak a little bit on revolvers. Probably irritate some people with that, but we're going to speak a little bit on revolvers. And I always got to mention TikTok a little bit and my adventures on TikTok. Some people are calling me TikTok Todd. So say that 5 times fast. TikTok Todd. But I'll talk about that. And then I want to, again, talk about, and I know I've kind of hounded on this quite a bit lately, but I want to talk about trigger control and why it is very important that you understand your trigger, know how to use it correctly, and you have 100% control of it and why you need to know it inside and out. So those are the things we're going to kind of cover today. This could be 15 minutes. It could be 10 minutes. It may be 30 minutes. It may be an hour. I don't know. I don't know people. I don't know. We'll see how much of a rant or anything that how much of a rant I get on and when I'm talking about all this. It's just me, so these shows are kind of a gamble. as far as how long they last, because like I said, it's just me, and I got no one asking me questions. I got no one spurring on the conversation. It's literally just what's bouncing around in my head for right now. But I tell you what, we are going to start right now with a clip. It's kind of a longer audio clip, but it's going to explain better what's going on with the ATF and these forced reset triggers. Now, this is a clip I grabbed off of YouTube. It's by the channel is called Washington Gun Law, and these folks pay attention to what's going on, and they give us their ideas on them and kind of what's happening. They are attorneys, I believe. So I'll go ahead and play this, and I'll jump in when need be. And again, I apologize. It's kind of long, but this is important. He's going to recount the letter that was actually sent out to all the FFL holders, and he's going to go over it and point some things out. So here we go.
Okay, before we get rolling, you guys know the drill. If you like this video, go ahead and click that like button. If you want to stay up to date on issues related to your Second Amendment rights, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Click the little bell logo if you want to be notified when we post new videos. And most importantly, let's keep the comments and discussions coming. That's how we're going to make sure that we're getting our videos out to more lawful and responsible gun owners like yourself. Okay, just so you know, we got a couple of other videos coming out that relate to a whole set of new rules that the ATF is drafting to redefine frame and receiver, therefore redefine firearms, and therefore expand the scope of federal law to bring more firearms, firearm components, and activities under the purview of that law. Well, in keeping with that tradition right now, the ATF has something else as it relates to forced reset triggers. Now, we've done some videos already on the forced reset trigger, both as it relates to Washington state law and as it relates to federal law and as it relates to some recent ATF efforts, because we kind of predicted that this was coming. Well, an open letter was sent this week to all FFLs by the ATF about forced reset triggers, and I want you to pay particular attention to the language of this letter because you can see where this is going. Now, the
darn ATF, all they want to do is take away our fun. That's all they want to do. They just want to take away our fun.
The letter from the ATF to all the FFLs started out as the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives recently examined devices commonly known as forced reset triggers, FRTs, and has determined that some of them are firearms and machine guns, as defined in the National Firearms Act, and machine guns as defined in the Gun Control Act. So the ATF right off the bat is saying, hey, listen, some of these we are defining as machine guns. Which ones are they? Well, they go on to explain that these particular FRTs are being marketed as replacement triggers for AR-type firearms. Unlike traditional triggers and binary triggers, sometimes generally referred to as FRTs, the subject FRTs do not require shooters to pull and then subsequently release the trigger to fire a second shot. Instead, these FRTs utilize the firing cycle to eliminate the need for the shooter to release the trigger before a second shot is fired. By contrast, some aftermarket triggers have similar components but also incorporate a disconnector or similar feature to ensure that the trigger must be released before a second shot may be fired and may not be machine guns. So as you can see, the FRTs that are not requiring the trigger to be pressed each time, and I know that that's debatable because the way it works, the trigger is technically being pressed each time. But if there is not some type of a disconnector to this device, in all likelihood, the ATF is going to be defining that now as, in and of itself, a machine gun. Now, the ATF justifies this by stating the following. Both the NFA and the Gun Control Act regulate machine guns. Machine gun is defined under 26 U.S.C. Section 5845B and 18 U.S.C. Section 921A23 as any weapon which shoots, is designed to shoot, or can be readily restored to shoot automatically more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger. The term shall also include firearm or receiver or any such weapon, and this is the rub here, and any part designed or intended solely and exclusively or combination of parts designed and intended for use in converting a weapon into a machine gun, and any combination of parts which a machine gun can be assembled if such parts are in the possession or under the control of a person. And you can see that that's the last section that they're catching up on. But then the letter goes on and states more. ATF's examination found that some FRT devices allow a firearm to automatically expel more than one shot with a single continuous pull of the trigger. For this reason, ATF has concluded that FRTs that function in this way are a combination of parts designed and intended for use in converting a weapon into a machine gun, and hence, ATF has classified these devices as machine gun as defined by the National Firearm Act and the Gun Control Act. So, there you are put on notice. Right now the FFLs are being put on notice, but I have a feeling that all of you are going to be put on notice that if you bought a trigger with this type of configuration to it, that now is being defined as a firearm in of itself. It's being defined as an NFA regulated firearm known as a machine gun, and you're in unlawful possession of it. The letter further states, accordingly, ATF's position is that any FRT that allows a firearm to automatically expel more than one shot with a single continuous pull of the trigger is a machine gun and is accordingly subject to the Gun Control Act prohibitions regarding the possession, transfer, and transport of machine guns under 18 U.S.C. Section 922(o) and 922(a)(4). They are also subject to registration, transfer, taxation, and possession restrictions under the National Firearms Act. The letter then further states, under 26 U.S.C. Section 5871, any person who violates or fails to comply with the provisions of the NFA may be fined up to $10,000 per violation and is subject to imprisonment for a term of up to 10 years. Further, pursuant to 26 U.S.C. Section 5872, any machine gun possessed or transferred in violation of the National Firearm Act is subject to seizure and forfeiture. Check this out then. Under 18 U.S.C. Section 924, any person who violates Section 922 subsection O may be sent to prison for up to 10 years and fined up to $250,000 per person or $500,000 per organization. And if there is any doubt that the ATF is coming after these triggers, then check out the language in this next paragraph. Based on ATF's determination that FRTs that function as described above are machine guns under the National Firearm Act and the Gun Control Act, ATF intends to take appropriate remedial action with respect to sellers and possessors of these devices. Current possessors of these devices are encouraged to contact ATF for further guidance on how they might divest possession.
Yeah, go ahead and give ATF a call. Go ahead and do it. They want you to call them. They want you to have a problem so they can get you on that list that doesn't exist.
And divest possession is a kind way of saying surrender your property. The letter concludes, if you are uncertain whether the device you possess as a machine gun is defined by the Gun Control Act and the National Firearms Act, please contact your local ATF field office. You may
Again, give them a call, guys. Give them a call.
consult with the local ATF's office webpage for office contact information. And the letter is signed by Alfonso Hughes, Assistant Director of the Enforcement Programs and Services, and George Lauder, Assistant Director of Field Operations. Well, what does this mean? Well, it means that right now the Full Employment Act for ATF agents is live and well because they will have plenty to keep them busy this summer. But they specifically said they are taking proper enforcement and remedial actions. What's that mean? Well, they sent the letters to the FFLs first, and you know they're going to go to the FFLs and they're going to see how much of that inventory is there. They're going to seize it, and they're going to seize all the sales records for anyone else who purchased these.
And don't forget, they either are going to pass, trying to pass, or have just passed, and I'm a little behind on this, but when they just passed they just were talking about, that big omnibus spending bill. In there was allotted money that they could go ahead and they could go to each state and they can, I won't say deputize, but they can make deputies in the sheriff's department ATF agents. So if they need, they can go and do the work for them. And everyone is always behind the sheriff's department. The sheriff there, we got good people. There is probably some good people in there. But I tell you what, if you've got some sheriff's, deputies or officers or whatever, and ATF comes around and says, we'll give you a little bit more money, right? Law enforcement always saying they don't make that much money. We'll give you a little bit more money, and as long as we can use you as an ATF agent when we need to. I mean, gas prices are going up. Food is getting its, prices on everything is going up. All this major inflation, and people are starting to struggle. And now the ATF is going to come in and they're going to offer up a little bit extra money for sheriff's departments to so those deputies can go out and be ATF agents on the side. Do you think they're going to turn that down? There's probably some good ones that will not, or that will turn it down. There's probably a handful they're going to like, show me the money, man. I need fuel. My family has to eat. Housing, prices have gone through the roof. They're going to take the money, and then they're going to help enforce this. I mean, just think about it. Sit back and think about how many new ATF agents there are now. And then they introduce something like this because they know that they're going to need those agents, those deputies to be agents to go out and enforce all these criminal laws that they're putting into place.
If you have one of these FRTs, one of these force reset triggers that falls under this classification, yes, it is my opinion that the ATF will be coming for that trigger. Now, listen, should you be contacting the ATF right now on your own?
Don't do that.
No, you should never be contacting the ATF on your own. Why? Well, they are a little bit of the gotcha department. They are certainly not on your side. They are certainly not on the side of lawful and responsible gun owners who purchased otherwise legal products and now are being told that these products are illegal. I encourage all of you to contact skilled and experienced local counsel in your jurisdiction so that they can have communications with the ATF if they believe that that is appropriate. I'm sure there will be a lot more developments happening, and as we learn of them, we will keep you posted here. Listen, in the meantime, you may have more questions about this or anything else related to your Second Amendment rights, and if you do, don't ever hesitate to contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com.
So there you go. I think you guys all need to go on YouTube. You need to find the Washington Gun Law YouTube channel. Go ahead and subscribe to that. I mean, I'm not affiliated with them at all, but they break everything down when it comes to what the ATF wants to do and different gun laws. And I've been watching them now for just a little while. So I'd go over and check them out, kind of give them a plug, I guess. They have no idea who I am, but I'm going to give them a plug. But there you go. The ATF, don't kid yourself. They're coming for those triggers, right? They are coming for those forced reset triggers. And I know that there's a lot of them out there. So I don't know. Just it's one more way that they're coming after our gun rights, right? A little here, a little there. That's what they're doing. They can't get rid of the AR-15, so they're going to get rid of the parts and the pieces, and they're going to reclassify everything. So essentially, your gun's going to be null and void and totally 100% illegal without coming right out and saying your rifle is illegal. And taking it from you. They're going to just start reclassifying everything so that it falls under the criteria that's in that NFA Act and Class 3 type stuff. So keep an eye on it. Check it out. And once again, I can't reiterate. I mean, if they're going to take sheriff deputies, right, and they are going to turn them into, side hustle, give them a side hustle of being an ATF agent, they have the manpower, right? They're getting everything in place, and then all of a sudden they introduce this. It's interesting how they do this after that. So it's kind of something to keep an eye on. I know I don't always touch on the ATF stuff because it is important, and I probably need to touch on it some more. I'm more of a handgun guy, not necessarily a rifle guy, and I think about it here. They come for the rifles, and I don't say anything because I have a rifle, right? And they come for the handguns, and then no one else says anything. I'm like the only one left, right? So we have to pay attention from a bolt-action rifle to the AR-15s to the handguns to the you name it. We cannot give in. Thank you, Mr. Trump, for giving in and letting them take, start all this off, fire it all up with taking, the bump stocks, right? Don't give in. You never give in. Do not give in to domestic terrorists. Speaking of domestic terrorists, that's a pretty funny topic there. This will go right into that. So I'm on the TikTok thing, making some videos and stuff. It's absolutely this whole thing. I'm not even whining or complaining about it anymore because I just find that it's fascinating. I'm on TikTok making some videos, and finally I actually made some videos of me shooting a firearm. Right, shooting a firearm. Man, it's gotten likes, and they didn't take it down yesterday, and it's been up for like a week. Yesterday, I posted a video of me talking, and then it literally, I'm not even holding it. It's a photograph. It's a picture. I was able to put a picture into the video of a firearm, and then just sitting there, right, on the table. And then I also put in a picture of ammunition. They didn't even let me post it before they pulled it down, called it a violation of community guidelines, and then banned me for another week. So it's super entertaining, and I cannot wrap my brain around what they consider a violation of community guidelines and what they deem as a violation, what they deem as okay, right? I thought for sure that the one where I was shooting a gun would get pulled down. In fact, I posted 2 of them, almost back to back of me firing a gun, and they were fine with it. They're cool with it. I show a picture of a gun, and it's all over. It's either that or the ammo. Or I was thinking, I am wearing a shirt that says says something about God on it. It says God, guns, and gains. It's like a pre-workout type shirt, but it says God in it. It makes me wonder if they got rid of it because my shirt said, I have no idea. They don't ever give any explanation. I appeal them, and you're supposed to hear back. What you're going to hear back from the result of this thing being appealed. I don't hear back. I don't hear back from nothing. I mean, these are all computers. They're all China bots. It is what it is. I know who TikTok is, and I know what they do, but it's fascinating. The algorithm, whatever they got set up, is absolutely fascinating. I can't even say someone turned me in on this one because this video actually never got posted. I mean, it was under review, and they never allowed it to be posted, but yet they still said I violated community guidelines. How could I violate community guidelines if the video was actually never posted in the community? I don't get it. It's fascinating, but if you're following me on TikTok, I do appreciate that, and I will be back in a week. And I'll keep pushing the envelope, and we will see what happens. So, okay, let's talk about what I had a chance to shoot this weekend. So, a gunslinger here, he joins me on the podcast every now and then. He's not here today, but he was just taken, just smitten with this Canic rifle. He saw it, and he was just smitten with it, and he had to get one. And he could not find one locally here. He even sells guns, and they couldn't get him. They couldn't get him in yet. And so he drove on up to Boise, and I think he went through like a dozen gun stores till he found one, and he bought it. And I tell you what, I've been just super impressed with the Canics, all of them, right? When they first came out, they were $300 and $400. Now you're going to pay a little more for it because they have actually proven to be really reliable, really good firearms. They really have. And I've been super impressed with all of them that I've seen. And the Rival is supposed to be it's kind of like, it's a big gun, right? It's got the longer barrel on it. And it's supposed to be kind of more like a competition type gun, and take all the best pieces from all the other guns, best things, and put them all together. Well, it did that. They did that, and I picked it up, and it feels really, really good in the hand. And I tell you what, Canic has let's see, the what they call it, the Combat Elite or whatever it is, right? It has a phenomenal trigger from the factory. I picked up the Rival, and I dare to say it has a better trigger than that one. So if you're into Canic, if you've got the Elite Combat Pro or whatever they call it, find yourself a Rival. Get your hands on a Rival. That trigger break is phenomenal. The reset is phenomenal. I was trying to help out Gunslinger, and I was showing him some drills and stuff with talked about the trigger reset, and I had to read on my personal gun, my HK. I've got an aftermarket trigger on it. Love it. Love the reset. I think the reset could be better, but it's a good reset. This Rival is and that's the gun I run all my drills on. I picked up this Rival, and I was trying to show him some reset drills, and I can find reset. That's not a problem at all. But some of these other drills, that reset, when you can dry fire, rack the slide and figure out how to come off of the trigger and find reset mid-cycle. It is so fast. I kind of messed it up at first. I was not expecting it to be that sudden. The reset is phenomenal on that gun. And what's really cool about it is Mark. I said his real name. Don't tell him that. It is the Gunslinger's first handgun that he has actually went out and put a red dot on. And so he was just learning the red dot, and we got it all dialed in for him. And then we were out shooting steel plates. I mean, he helped me with a class for a couple hours, and then he probably stayed for another hour and a half, and we just shot and boxes of, empty ammo were everywhere. And we shot steel. We shot my steel poppers. We shot the paper targets. We shot the dueling tree, and I think he's in love with his red dot. It kind of reminds me of someone, me. It reminds me of me and how I talked against them for so long, and now I got one, and I love my red dot. And you put that good Holosun red dot on that Canik Rival, and you pair it with that phenomenal trigger, with that phenomenal trigger reset, that gun is, I want to sound like all the kids, that gun is fire. That thing is amazing. So if you haven't got a chance, check it out. I'm telling you right now. If I were to go buy a Canik, it's a little long because it's kind of the competition model, right? The barrels. I would buy that Canik Rival in a heartbeat. That thing is phenomenal. It puts the other Caniks to shame, and they're not bad guns, but it puts the other Caniks to shame. Just when you thought something couldn't get any better, I'm not disappointed. Another gun that the gunslinger, he's been on a gun buying spree lately. Another one that he picked up was the Iwi Masada, and he doesn't have a red dot or anything on that. I think now that he shot the red dot on the Canik, he states that he's going to go and get a red dot for his Iwi Masada. We didn't actually get a chance to shoot it. We kind of forgot about it. I did pick it up and I did dry fire it. The trigger's not bad. That trigger reset is absolutely horrible. Absolutely. You're almost clear to the end of the trigger, back where the trigger starts before you pick up that reset. Absolutely horrible. So if anyone has an idea, has a good aftermarket trigger for that Iwi Masada, I think old gunslinger, I think he's looking for one, because that was a poor trigger reset on that. I'm very, very disappointed in that gun. Again, I never did shoot it. I just played with the trigger. Was not impressed. Another gun I did get my hands on, and I know if they're listening on my Patriot Defense Facebook page, someone asked me, I posted a picture of a bunch of guns, and then it was the FN, was it 509, I think? Yeah, FM 509. And they asked me if I'd shot it and what I thought about it. Well, I didn't get to shoot it that day. When I had taken that picture of it, I never did get a chance to shoot it. But that buddy of mine came back, and I was able to actually put some rounds with it. That's a little tack driver. It's not a bad gun. I need a little bit bigger grip, a little longer grip for me to be comfortable with it. But it's not a bad gun. I won't say it's the best of the best, but it's definitely not the worst of the worst. It's like right there in the middle. I mean, that's a very usable gun, and I think if someone put some time behind it, I think it's an enjoyable gun to shoot. It really is. Is there better for the money? I don't know. I mean, I'd go and look for I'd go look at that Canik Rival. Honestly, I think it was a much better firearm. But that FN 509, it's not a bad little gun. I have nothing bad to say about it. It just didn't feel good in my hand. But the trigger was okay, right? It was average. It was usable. It was doable. But not a bad little gun. I'm looking at my list here, right? I'm looking at my list. Let's talk about this. I've always talked about, trigger press, knowing the trigger press. I've gone over it, slack, take up, wall, trigger break, right? Slack, take up, wall, trigger break, and how you just add pressure. I don't even like to use the word press. When you get to the wall, you are just adding pressure till that trigger breaks. If I say press, the people get there and then they press that trigger. People's press and pull are one and the same. We add pressure till the trigger breaks. That's what we do. Okay, now let's talk about trigger reset. I've talked about that before. You have to know where your trigger reset is, and there's numerous drills that you can use to learn your trigger reset. And one of them I used with I probably talked about it before, but I'm getting old. I don't freaking remember anymore. But I had the old gunslinger in here and or over here, and who's shooting, and it says let's play with the reset, right? Let's work on your reset. And leave it to me, right? Buddy comes over to shoot, and I I shoot just like a little bit, but I spend more time helping other people because that's what I like to do. And honestly, maybe I'm no fun to come over and shoot with because I immediately go to Mr. Instructor. I see what you're doing. Let me see if I can improve that. And I don't know if people like that or don't like it. Most people seem to be receptive to it. And I'm not trying to take the fun out of it, but I enjoy shooting. I really enjoy helping people, right? And seeing if I can help them improve on things. Not that they're not good as it is, but I really like to do that, so I end up doing that. So that's what I did with the gunslinger. And what we were doing is we were taking a mag. He was loading a magazine, sticking the mag in the gun. He would chamber the round, or one round, and then take the magazine out. So you have a gun with no mag in it, but you have one round chambered. Holds it out there, takes a shot, works the trigger like he should, takes the shot. And the point of this is take the shot, bang, and then just come out to trigger reset and make sure your sights have aligned back on the target. And it works two things, right? Works on focusing on getting your sights back aligned and on the target, and you are practicing developing muscle memory just to come out to trigger reset after each shot instead of taking your finger clear off the trigger and slapping it. And I'm in here demonstrating with my hands, and there's obviously no camera in here, so no one can see what the freak I'm doing, but I get whatever. I talk with my hands, right? And then what I do is he takes that shot and he settles the sights back down. So bang, settles the sights back down and comes out to trigger reset, and he holds his finger on that reset. And then I come up to him and go, are your sights aligned? Yes. Is your trigger prepped? Meaning, have you come out to trigger reset? And then he'll say yes. And then I say, prove it to me. And to prove it to me, he will then dry fire his gun. Because remember, the mag is out. He only had one round load. He will then dry fire his gun, and I'll be able to hear if he has successfully found reset. And so knowing your trigger reset and having it controlled is fantastic. So after we do that drill for a little while, then we go ahead and leave the magazine in. He chambers around. We leave the mag in. And then I let him have 2 rounds, right? And so he's, and coming to reset in between, he fires the gun, bang, bang, reset, bang. So bang, bang. And then after that second shot, he comes out to reset. Now the magazine is in there, so he's able to, if he doesn't find reset successfully and hold it there, he's going to fire that 3rd round. And the goal is to fine tune it, to know how to do it, to be in tune enough with your trigger that you have trigger control. And you can find that reset after that second shot and hold it on reset without firing that 3rd round. It's control. Why do we do that? Well, think about it. In a threat, right? You shoot somebody, you don't just, you want to shoot to stop the threat. You don't continually shoot them. Once a threat is down, stop shooting unless they become a threat again, which they can become really quickly. But you don't want to go bang, bang, and then reholster your gun, right? Bang, bang, you're on trigger reset. You're there. If you need a second shot or you need a 3rd shot, you're there. You're on the reset, and you can get that shot off quickly. You don't need it, then you can let off the trigger and reholster your gun. You want to be able to take another shot to stop the threat again if it becomes a threat again, correct? But you want to be controlled enough you're not just filling the guy full of rounds. As much as you want to, law enforcement looks down on that. The law, a court is going to look down on that. If 2 shots stop the threat and then all of a sudden you get excited and pump in 3 more rounds, they're going to ask you, why did you do that? Why did you do that? You have to know how to control that trigger. You have to be able to fire another round quickly if needed, but you also have to be able to let off and have control and not take that shot if it is not needed, right? You have to understand that. You have to know your trigger reset, and every firearm has a different trigger reset, and I probably just beat this dead horse enough, but it's so very important. It's so very important that I know I've mentioned it multiple times on the show, and they're probably all starting to sound like repeats now. But I just thought I would explain it again, and explain maybe a different reasoning behind it, a different reason for it. Sometimes that clicks better for some people than others, right? Different things, different ways of doing things. So there you go. Trigger reset. We have to understand that trigger reset. Let's talk about revolvers. Everyone's seen that every now and then I've been carrying that revolver lately. And for me, the revolver is fine. It works okay. I can shoot it. I got no qualms with it, correct? Okay, I see a lot of revolvers come into class. And I see a lot of, and I'm not picking on them by any means, I see a lot of older women bring in revolvers. And this is, I've heard this story more than once. Well, my husband bought this revolver for me, and they're older, right? My husband bought this revolver for me, and he was going to teach me how to shoot it. And then he passed away, and so I've got this revolver. And since he got it for me, he thought it would be best for me. I want to learn how to shoot it. And they're usually little snub-nosed 38 specials, or if the guy that bought it was a thinker, it was a 357, and you can fire 38s in it, right? Have that option of 357s. But I'm going to tell you right now, revolvers are fine, and they do go bang. And I hear this from good instructor, or I hear this from, I won't say good, I hear this from other instructors, right? That's the simplest way to go. It's a point and shoot. It's a point and shoot. That's the simplest way to go. It is if you can shoot a freaking revolver. If you can't, it does no good. And honestly, all these triggers, most of them have heavy triggers on them. I mean, there's better triggers than others, but they have real heavy triggers on them. That's what they do. They're revolvers. That's their MO. They have heavy triggers. And a lot of times, older people, older women, right, have a struggle with the strength to press that trigger, to pull that or press that trigger. It's a lot different than on a semi-auto. You have to press it kind of quickly, and it has to be smooth all the way. And it can be difficult because they are heavy, heavy, heavy triggers. And more often than not, I see people pull it. They're using every ounce of their being, right, to get that trigger back. They get a half to 3/4, and then they let up, and they're like, man, it won't fire. I can't pull it anymore. It's too heavy. I can't do this, right? And it doesn't work out for them. And if they do shoot it, they are pulling or pressing that trigger, and they're also like gripping it so hard, trying to find the strength to leverage that trigger back, that they're actually using the palm of their hand, and they're pushing against it, and they end up torquing that gun barrel so it's pointed up high. And then they're going to start launching rounds in places that they should not launch rounds. We have to be aware that just because they're simple doesn't mean they're for everyone, because they can be a pain in the ass to shoot, and then they jump, and then they breathe fire, and they're little barrels, and they are not for everyone. And I am so tired of these men, even some like gun stores, gun salesmen, these husbands, these boyfriends, these dads, that they I hear the story. Well, dad told me that revolvers are for women. I'm not smart enough to run a semi-auto. That's bullshit. You can run a semi-auto. They make so many variations of semi-auto. I mean, you got the 380 and the 9mm Smith & Wesson EZs, right? For God's sakes. You can use those. The slides are easy. I can teach you how to rack a tough slide a lot easier than I can't help you pull the trigger on your revolver. I mean, you either can or you can't. That's the way it is. You can press that trigger or you can't. I can't get in there and make your finger or make your hand stronger to be able to actuate that trigger. You can or you can't. That's all there is to it. And I'm telling you right now, revolvers are not for everybody. As much as people say, oh, they're simple, you can use them. And we give them to women because they're just easier to use, and you don't have to worry about this, and you don't have to worry about malfunctions. And semi-autos are always going to have malfunctions. Let me tell you this. I know we all know this. I do not clean my guns like I should. I've gone over a year now. I have not cleaned my guns. I don't recommend that, but that is me. I have, you buy good quality gun. I'm not buying $1,200 guns. You buy a good quality gun, right? Even mine that are dirty run. I very, 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 very rarely have a malfunction in one of my guns. So someone's saying that there is a malfunction, that these a malfunction, and you just point and shoot the revolver and just click it again. Well, if you can't squeeze the trigger, you can't fire the gun a first time, let alone, one time, let alone 2 times. It's utterly ridiculous. That's a stupid statement. It really is a stupid statement. You're telling me that someone needs a gun so freaking simple because they're too dumb to run a semi-auto, right? You can learn how to run a semi-auto. You can learn how to clear, some kind of malfunction or jam or something like that, which honestly, you learn how to clear them. That is important. But honestly, you're probably not going to have to do that. They just run. Most of them run. And if you got a gun that's going to continually jam, it's probably not going to last long on the market. That's just the way it is. So I'm going to tell you right now, revolvers are not for everybody. And the fact that people say that they are, and they're simplistic, and they're this and they're that, that's just dumb. If they were that simple, anybody could shoot the dang things. And I'm going to tell you right now that not everyone can shoot a freaking revolver. They just can't. So there, I'm going to step. Well, that was quite the rant. Todd gets going on about revolvers, but it is what it is. I hear it all the time, and I'm so sick of it when I see someone in class who, and I'm not trying to judge people, but they tell me what they brought to shoot, and depending on who it is, I'm just like, oh, yeah, you brought a revolver. And I always ask them, hey, have you shot that revolver? Nope. I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. I'm not against it. I will help you, and hopefully I will help you learn to shoot that revolver, and you will shoot it, and hopefully you will see the light, and then I will hand you one of my other guns and say, why don't you try shooting this? And I'll let a person make their own decision on the whole revolver thing. That's the way it is. It's the way I do it. So, okay, well, I do want to always say, as I wrap this thing up today, I am so thankful for everyone's support on the podcast. I'm so thankful for everyone's support on Patreon. I know I need to get on there and get a few more videos up there, and I will get that done. And I tell you what, if you want to join Patreon, that'd be absolutely fantastic. It's $5 a month. That's all it is. You set it up. You don't even think about it. It just takes $5. And, look at that. Prices on everything are going up, folks. Everything. Except for Todd's Patreon. I value my patrons. I'm not going to raise that price on them. It's going to stay at $5. That's the one thing that you can be a part of, that you can pay for every month and go, inflation hasn't hit the Patriot Defense Patreon page, so we don't mind paying that $5 a month. So there you go. It's the one thing I'm not going to overcharge you for. I'm not going to raise the price on. So check it out. If you want to do that, I would absolutely appreciate that. And if not, that's one way you could support the podcast. And if not, and you want to continue to support it, and you can't afford $5 a month, I get it, man. That's like a gallon of gas now, right? You can just share the